Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I see some folks in the chat across the pond in Europe, so you must be enjoying some wine by now. We appreciate taking some time with us with Front and Jarrett Logistics, and we're really here to talk about when minutes make a difference. And I'm so honored to be spending some time with Matt and Jarrett, and we'll give some brief introductions and really just get into the meat and potatoes behind this. So my name is Andrew Berger. I'm our VP of Sales here at Front. I've been with the company for a few years now. I'm joined by Matt Wagner, VP Sales and Marketing, and Jared Williams, a Senior Manager of Logistics Operations. Matt, I'll push it over to you and maybe give you a little brief introduction of yourself and really how you operate in the logistics space.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thanks for having us on here, Andrew. I'm looking forward to kind of talking here this afternoon, this morning, this evening, wherever you guys are at, and spending some time with you here today. I've been with Jarrett, started with Jarrett in 2007 and in the transportation industry overall, and have kind of grown up with Jarrett in that sector here. And so I'm in a leadership role and able to work with our business development team who works with companies out there, and we understand where they're at today and where they're going in the future. Awesome. A little bit about Jarrett as well. Let him introduce himself.
Sure. Thanks, Matt. And Andrew, thanks for having us on. We definitely appreciate it. So my name's Jared, as we've said. So I manage a couple of our customer account teams. We may even refer to them as a CAT team kind of along the way. Basically, we're kind of handling the day-to-day operations of our customers. And my responsibility is that continuous improvement opportunity, working direct with our customer base, and really just making sure that they've got a great experience.
Great. Awesome. Appreciate the introductions. We're going to flip over to I'm going to spend 30 seconds just kind of setting the table of what Front is, and then we're going to dig into how Jarrett operates. How Jarrett, not Jarrett. So what is Front? Front is a hub for customer communications that helps logistics companies get more revenue out of every single email. With Front, logistics companies can effortlessly manage high email volumes, respond to messages faster, and reduce the amount of each email each team member needs to manually read through. We know that minutes matter and speed to response is the name of the game. Shared inboxes reduce duplication of messages and provide visibility and transparency without piling up individuals' email inboxes. Clear assignments ensure no work is duplicated or that wires get crossed. Who wants the CCCs, the forwards, the BCCs? Automations eliminate manual triaging and ensuring high priority messages are handled first. And lastly, analytics help leaders like Matt and Jared manage workloads more intelligently and track and measure response time SLAs like never before. So that's super high level about Front is. Let's dig into how the team over here really uses Front. So, before we, talk about how Jarrett uses Front, I think it'd be great for Matt or Jarrett to share a little bit about what does Jarrett do?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Andrew. Well, at Jarrett, we're a logistics solutions provider. We're based here in Northeast Ohio in Orrville. It's the home of Smucker's, Jams and Jellies, Bobby Knight, the basketball coach, and Jarrett Logistics. We've got about 150 to 200 folks here in our routing center and our operations centers at corporate. We do have a client services center out in Los Angeles, as well as satellite locations in Dallas and Chicago as well. Our clients are scattered all over North America. We handle product ranging from food and beverage to chemicals to automotive supplies to fiber optic cable. Things that you put on airplanes and spaceships and many other commodities as well. And the vast majority of how we help our clients is in transportation management. And that's both managed transportation services as well as freight brokerage services, consisting of LTL, truckload, expedite, final mile, parcel, kind of all the major modes of transportation. And we do also have a warehouse services solution here in the Midwest as well. At the end of the day, we're a people-centric, tech-enabled organization, and we help companies get more control and visibility over their supply chain and become more cost-effective and efficient within the process.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So let's dive right into why do minutes actually matter. So, at Front, we serve almost 7,000 customers in across the world. I think we're about 99 or 100 countries today. And a lot of companies that we work with have a 24-hour email rule. We set that up in the back end, ensuring that they get the responses within, 24 hours. But, in logistics and really in transportation space, that's really not fast enough what we found, and people kind of dial that down to be much quicker. Can you help us explain, like, why do minutes really matter and not hours in your business?
Yeah, sure. Andrew, I can kind of speak to that at a macro level, and kind of if you really think back, and Amazon has had a major impact on businesses everywhere. The Amazon effect is real. They kind of reset the expectations that consumers have. It spilled over into every aspect of logistics, supply chain, and business in general. And so, everybody expects their shipment this afternoon, and they need to be alerted and have visibility all along the way. Years ago, if I needed something, you'd go out after work, or maybe this weekend you'd run down to the Home Depot and get what you needed. But shoot, now you just jump on your phone or your computer and you expect it to come in this afternoon. And so that's really transformed kind of the expectations for everything. And in our business, transportation never stops. It's a 24/7, 365 operation. And right, wrong, or indifferent doesn't always necessarily go 100% according to plan, even under normal circumstances. There's something that's going to come up that's unexpected that will be a blip in the radar. Then you factor in some weather events like a hurricane season, or like the winter storm that we had several weeks back that stretched from Texas to Tennessee. Those things have meaningful impacts on businesses. And, with all those weather situations, at least something like that, usually it's a blip for a few days, maybe a few weeks. You can get back to normal conditions. But, man, when you figure in the pandemic that we've been living in the last 12, 15, 16 months, everything changes, right? And if you think back, things when this was new, things were changing by the hour. Every hour something new was going on. And if you think about it, Andrew, if you've ever taken a call from your customer, if they're expecting something to arrive from you, and you get that phone call that says, "Hey, Andrew, where's my shipment? It was supposed to be here like 2:00. Where's it at?" What are you doing right then? In that case, you're kind of reacting. You're in, I don't know if you're in panic mode, but you're kind of in firefighting mode, because you're like, what's going on? Where's this at? What do I need to do to figure out what my customer needs? And, when it comes to why do minutes matter, it's all about the client experience and what your business reputation is. And you've got to be able to take care of people to continue to maintain your business and grow your business.
Yep. But couldn't say it any better. And, you hit on a couple things there. One, the pandemic we've been living into. You all have a clear view into my home office right here. Us here in California, we're not yet back into our normal operations in office. And, I also want to kind of hit on a little bit, like, why is this so difficult? I think we come across a lot of customers that struggle to provide that rapid response. And really on the operational side, right? The thing with Front is it's operational efficiency. We help there, but maybe Jarrett, you want to take, like, why is it so difficult to actually stand that up? And before you get into it as well, for everyone on the audience, please feel free to have any questions for us. I'm sorry, I forgot to give a plug at the beginning. Feel free to go into the chat and ask any questions. We're going to save some time. So if anything burning on your head that you hear from Matt or Jarrett, we'd love to address at the end of it. So Jarrett, over to you about why is it so difficult from an ops perspective?
Yeah, I think that really kind of comes down to, from an operations perspective, you're running an operations center. No day is the same. We have that constant influx of different information and different challenges on a day-to-day basis. And what we do in operations, though, is we identify trends. And I think that's one of the number one things that we can do if you're looking to input a rapid response, specifically for your email or other types of communication, is understand kind of where you are, and identify those trends. Look to see how you measure those trends and how you measure your performance and what you actually measure. I think all those things are really important. I would say the number one challenge I think that we saw was limited resources. And I think resources can kind of be in three different buckets. I call it data, staffing, and training. So from a data perspective, if you don't have the information, how can you adequately staff your team? And how can you make sure that rapid response is just that much more important? And being able to hit those goals that you're setting. I think that leads right back into the staffing piece. So if you're not staffed appropriately, how can you train? How can you have an adequate staff that's trained to be able to handle all of these things that are coming at them and get them back within a very, very short period of time? Because that's what our customers are looking for. From the Jarrett perspective, we asked ourselves, three different questions when we were kind of looking at this process. How do we get the right message to the right people at the right time? How do we staff for those critical times? And then ultimately, how do we not just acknowledge, but how do we actually resolve those emails?
Yeah, that's 3 critical questions that I think any operator in your space should be asking yourselves if you want to improve. Like, first I think there's a saying, you can't measure you can't move what you can't measure. So first, how do we get the baseline? Then how do we measure? Then how do we optimize, right? So let's go over to some areas that we focus on, 4 key areas to faster communication operations. So, pose this over to the Jarrett crew. Help us understand the strategy behind the best-in-class communications, and maybe talk about how do you structure the team, how do you set goals, how do you proactively tackle those roadblocks? You guys talked about proactiveness, talked about training, but maybe kind of pull up a little bit and share to the audience how you operate it today.
Yeah, Andrew, I'll kind of start that, Jarrett, just kind of talking through a couple things. I think one of the very first keys to being able to improve communications and speed there is making sure that you and your team have very clear and concise expectations. That goes from the top down in an organization. I mean, it all starts there, and it's going to permeate throughout the organization, and they set the stage. At Jarrett, we've always been a high-touch, high-service provider ever since Mike Jarrett started the organization back in '99. The JLS Routing Center is our global control tower, and they handle all transportation management across our clients' network. It may sound real simple and kind of cliche, but there's always been a clear and concise expectation to answer the phone. And basic as that seems, that's where it all started. And I started with the company in 2007. This was way in advance before I got here, but everybody in the organization knew that you were going to get a live person on average in less than 8.5 seconds. And in our phone system, that's 3 rings. That's how 8.5 seconds came about. And in fact, you're going to get a live person on the team that's dedicated to you. We don't have voicemail. And so, if you try, you're not going to get voicemail. 24/7, 365, you're going to get the person that you're looking for. If you walk through our corporate headquarters, you might be able to see it over my shoulder, but we've got TVs and monitors and call stats everywhere that we can see down to the individual person, how everybody's performing and what they're running at. And we incentivize our team to be able to do that. We want them to be able to give the customer the experience that we want to put our name on. And that's what we hang our hat on. We have metrics for email response time and things like that. We're going to get into a deeper dive on that here in a few moments. Another key, I think, is being able to create a culture of speed. And what we mean by that is being able to set your team up for success and empowering them to make decisions. So, Jarrett mentioned our customer account teams earlier. They're structured in a way that provides a seamless experience in order to handle normal day-to-day situations, as well as very complicated scenarios that may need to be escalated within the team. So all of these things are happening when our customer may not necessarily be aware of that. And that just goes back to how we've set things up and structured things internally at an operation level. For example, we've got many teams within the organization, but a team is made up of 6 to 8 individuals. Mm-hmm. And you've got a manager that runs that team. They're focused to make sure that the day-to-day is running as it should. Everything's being handled, but their other role is to make sure from a continuous improvement standpoint, they're working with our clients and understanding where they're going and how they're going to get there and what bumps may come up along the road, right? And so they're more CI focused, continuous improvement. The day-to-day team, we've got a lead logistics coordinator. That person sets the stage and they dictate the workflow within that team of 6 to 8 people. They do have direct account responsibilities, but they are that go-to person, typically the most experienced within that team. They're the furthest escalation point before you get to the manager level. We've got coordinators who have day-to-day client-facing opportunities as well. They have different responsibilities and authority levels to make decisions themselves. And we also have assistant logistics coordinators. That's kind of where we get someone new to the industry, new to the organization. They're learning the Jarrett way. They don't have direct client responsibilities. They help with overflow and being able to take pressure off of our coordinators that are working with our customers, their customers, and then their suppliers, and being able to streamline. And so what we've done is we've set up hierarchies internally so that each of those individuals knows what their level of responsibility is. They know how to handle and tackle situations as they come in and as they arise. And they also know who to go to for support. And so that's how they're able to work very quickly. It creates a culture of speed within the organization. It also gives them the ability to kind of make decisions and empower them to grow with their own self professionally and personally. And we give them the tools to do their job effectively. And so, those are two very, very clear points that we have that are keys to being able to make communication much faster. Jared's going to talk on a few other things, even at a further level here in a moment.
And Jared, before I get in there, like, I think that's such an awesome, I would call like open window into how the sausage is made, almost like from everything from the beginning of recruiting and hiring to internal hierarchy. Like, what's sticking to me is the first thing you said was phone's got to be answered in 3 rings or less. Like that's tops down culture right there. And then you have a system of recruiting, hiring, and training, all kind of tops down and bottoms up in terms of the organizational structure. I think someone is saying in the chat that you can't hear me. I hope maybe someone else can you guys hear me okay over there on the team? Matt and Jared? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds like people are popping and saying they can hear me. So sorry about that. I think Jason, if you can't hear me, I apologize. While I take a quick pause, if anything you guys hear that you want to go further deep on, please feel free to throw in the questions. We're going to save about 15 minutes or so at the end. But yeah, anyways, I just wanted to kind of tie the knot a little bit on, I was just kind of blown away by 3 rings or less, and then how you recruit and hire and staff. It's pretty fantastic. So Jared, why don't you take us home here on this slide?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big thing here, the next one, is the right message, right person, right time. And I think that aligns perfectly with not just being proactive, but also being intentional. This isn't something that you say one day, I'm going to do it and it's going to magically happen. You got to plan. You got to make sure that you got the right resources in the right place at the right time. And really, to be honest with you, that's what Front provided us. Front provided us a really great way to understand what those inbound messages, how to separate them out, how to make sure that we've aligned everything from a top-down perspective. And it's really helped us. Like I said, the intentionality, I think, is the key. Because if you don't plan it, it's not going to happen. I think the next one goes into, kind of aligns perfectly with some of the other things we've talked about, is the better data, better context. How do you even know what you need to do unless you have the data to understand it? And so the other piece of that is, how can your team respond in a manner that is meeting your customers' expectations if they don't have information at their fingertips? And we've been very intentional in that aspect, because we work with a lot of strategic partners out there in the industry, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can from a resources standpoint to give our team everything that they need at their fingertips, so that way they can hit some of these numbers that you're about to see on our email slide.
Awesome. Thanks for taking us home here. I think you guys should be excited for the next slide. There's going to be a lot of numbers, a lot of data. We're not going to pick it apart. We'll let you all read that. We'll have some fun question and answering on this slide, though. So posing my first question over to the Jarrett team is, if we look at these numbers, we can say, let's just go top left. Round up, call 700,000 inbound messages in 2020. How do you think, maybe a question for you, Matt, or Jared, if you want to take it, how has the volume changed over the years? Are we seeing more or less? Like, just help us understand what you're witnessing.
Yeah, I would say as we've grown as an organization, so has our email volume. And I think the big thing there is talking about a continuous improvement. We told you about our phone stats and how important that was to us at one point in time, but now as everything's kind of teetering back toward email, kind of on the high side now, we needed to make sure that we understood what that looked like. We saw about a 30% upward trajectory of email volume between 2015 to today. And we anticipate that to continue. Now, one thing that we've done with our team is trying to get everything answered as quick as we possibly can. So instead of just acknowledging, instead of just responding, we're resolving. And I think that's a key aspect of that. Because if you're resolving an email, there is no second email. So you can cut down the amount of traffic.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And to me, it's like I'm looking at eye-popping statistics here. Call it 682,000 messages, and with an average response time of less than 11.5 minutes. I mean, that's, again, I believe that's eye-popping. So that's awesome. Can you talk to us a little bit about where you guys were at, maybe operationally, response times, or just what was life pre-front and post-front?
Yeah, I'll take that one as well. I think, so my team was actually the very first team to actually introduce Front to our organization. And I think one of the big things that we saw right away was the ability to have that shared inbox. Visibility is key in the logistics industry in every aspect. And I think it rings true in our day-to-day customer experience as well. So from my perspective, as a manager running an operations center, how can I expect my team to not, fall over top of each other, working through trying to answer these emails so quickly if we don't tell them who's already working on that email? And I think that's a key aspect of this, is that shared inbox, was a game changer for us. We tried multiple other things beforehand, and just none were quite as successful as what we have today.
Yeah, the tripping over the shared inbox, we hear it a lot where people, let's say post-pandemic life or pre-pandemic life, when we're all in the office, when you go and get a message and you're poking your head around, who you responding to whom, or they call it the swivel chair topic, shoulder tapping. Are you taking this? Am I taking this? So keep it in one centralized place. If we step back a step and recognize that, what we empower is enabling you all to respond to the right message at the right time. That's maybe some would say that's transactional. At the end of the day, it's about the customer experience and the impact that you're making. How does Jarrett think about response times in terms of customer experience and the impact that it has?
I think it goes back to value. So we're a service-based organization. We don't sell a physical product, but we perform a service. So by creating value within our customers' organization, that creates that lasting relationship for us. And I think one of the best way you can create value, and what we saw as these numbers, as you can see, 11 minutes for an average response time, we were looking at the best way you can create value for a customer is to value their time. And if you're able to value their time and get them a very quick response, one, they're able to get back to their day. Because to be honest with you, when someone's interacting with another organization, most likely it's a blip on the radar in their day. And so understanding what that means and getting them back to what really matters the most, which is their customer, I think that's really the value piece. And I think that's the experience that you really gain when you have those rapid response.
Wonderful. I think that's, I couldn't say it any better, almost taking my breath away about responding to customers as fast, because that's what we do. So to bring it home, what do you think, if you were to say a few words about the value of Front that enabled you to have that experience and enabled you to have the impact to your customers, how would you kind of formulate the value of Front for Jarrett?
I think one of the biggest things, like I said, we talked about the shared inbox, but it's the right information to the right person at the right time. And that can't be said enough, because if you don't have that, you can't respond. You can't respond in 11 minutes if you're sending it to the wrong group the first time. It's got to be that intentionality to get it to the right person the first time, give them all the resources that they need in order to handle it, and be able to get it back to the customer.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. Everyone on, I think we have about 60 some odd folks. We're kind of coming close to the end, and I haven't seen a question come in yet. So please feel free. Ooh, I might see one kind of popping in there. I'll click on that in a second, but we'll get there. Brian, that's a fantastic answer, and we'll answer and ask that question at the end. We got one more slide to get through, and really this is kind of tying a bow on our entire presentation here, which is bringing home the 4 key ways. Oh, there we go. 4 key ways for faster communication operations. So I think you've heard this from Matt, you've heard it from Jared, but it's really clear and concise expectations. Matt talked about recruiting, hiring, training, continuous improvement, expectation setting, creating a culture of speed. It's Matt, it's burned in my memory bank. It's three rings or less. Culture of speed. Jared, it's right message, right time, intentionality, proactiveness. And then you can't move or measure, or you can't move a metric if you can't measure it. So how do we first measure the metrics, then provide the data, then provide the insights, and then enable better context? So in summation, it seems like that Jarrett is kind of firing on all cylinders on 4 key ways for faster communication operations. So anything else you guys want to tie this out before we go over to Q&A?
I think I'm good.
I'm good.
All right, let's go over to the last part of this, and please, thank you, Brian, for posing a question. I'll ask it, and maybe Jarrett, since you're the first group on Front at Jarrett, what was the experience like getting the team trained on Front? Maybe how long it took, the familiarity of email, kind of some ups and downs. Help the audience understand that a little bit.
Yeah, I would say the first thing was having a direct contact. we're similar to that. We try to give our customers a single point of contact as much as we possibly can, and then a team that surrounds them. And that's exactly how Front handled our onboarding experience. And so when we first started, we wanted to understand, what was the impact and how could it continue to add value to our business? Because to be honest with you, anytime it takes away from an operations center, everyone who's on this call most likely knows this, you take time away, it's got to add value. And we took our team off the floor to really get them to understand what this would do for them. And really that experience was going through different trainings and webinars and really understanding, what the tool could actually do. We spent a lot of time just going through different avenues that we needed specifically for logistics that Front had, and we just needed to find the right way to actually use it for our business. We actually created, and I recommend this to anybody, we created kind of an internal captainship within our organization. So not only my leads and my team were the one that kind of started the whole thing, but then they trained the rest of the team. And so it not only allowed them to understand from the Front side, but it also allowed them to understand how to run and use the system from a Jarrett side. And I think that's hugely important.
Awesome. Brian, Heather, thank you for asking some questions. And now we're getting into our feet under us, getting some of the fun questions. So we're starting with Brian. Is maybe just blanket statement. You got some ballpark, not to say exact specifics if that's near and dear to the Jarrett heart, but maybe how many different teams, departments are using Front at Jarrett Logistics today?
I'd say it's probably about 5 different departments. And one of the things that we continue to do is add more people all the time, because what we found is as we start interacting with each other within the organization, this is just a great tool to do that. So even if you're not customer facing, even if you're just trying, your customer is your internal partners, it still has a lot of value.
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot of that in like some adjacent industries, internal use cases, right? So like think of like your finance, accounts payable, accounts receivable, when you bombard messages towards like the end of month or end of year, end of quarter, and how you can communicate more effectively to get, again, at the end of the day, respond faster to your customer. It's the same sort of concept there. Heather, wonderful question. Change management. How do you remove the fear from, call it employees or users or teammates, about no longer using Outlook, right? When was Outlook created? Used as email client for the past 30 years. We're putting something brand new in front of you. How did you guys handle change management?
Yeah, I would say from that perspective, I'm a long-term Outlook user. So, I can talk to this for experience. I think you need to make sure that you understand what your organization is really trying to get from the tool. Outlook does a fantastic job of just outlining, I would call it the basics of email. It allows you to send, reply. It allows some basic fundamentals about shared teams. But what Front allowed us to do, and really what kind of helped from the change management perspective, is we made their day easier. We made our team's day easier. And by doing so, that change management completely flips. You no longer have a fear, you have an excitement.
You're doing my job for me. Thank you. I think there's sometimes, people get stuck at what I've seen. When I adopt new technology or new platforms through our team, it's like you're doing one way, a certain way, and you have to use a new platform. It's like, but what is this thing? And then if there's that fear, but if you attach it back to the why are we doing this? What is the outcome that we're striving to get? You might take a half a step backwards to get 10 steps forward at the end. And so it sounds like, Jarrett, that you believe in that premise as well. Any other questions from the audience? These are fantastic questions. All right, we'll give like another minute or so. We'll wrap up right on time, just under 30 minutes or so. Yeah, guys, everyone, thank you for tuning in, and major thank you to Matt and Jarrett from the Jarrett Logistics teams. You guys are fantastic partners of ours. As much as we can do to help you guys, and we sincerely appreciate it. Yeah, if you guys want to give a closing remark, and then we can get out of here.
Well, I would just say that this has been a great partnership. At the end of the day, it comes back to what kind of value can you bring to your customers, and the quickest way to be able to get their attention is when you talk about what you can do for their customers. And their customers could be their direct customers, but it could also, as Jarrett mentioned earlier, it could also be their internal customers at their organization. And so as we look at our business, we're trying to be able to help drive efficiency and improvement throughout their business. The vehicle that we do it is through transportation management, but we want to try and help make businesses better. And this is another tool that's allowed us to make our business better, but in turn, we're able to offer a better client experience for the folks that we do business with on a daily basis.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Jarrett, over to you.
Yeah, my big thing is transparency, because it allowed us to understand what we were doing internally. It allows us to understand what we were doing externally. And I think even just that rapid response is a game changer in every aspect. We've always had a culture around that customer experience, but it allowed us to to understand it more and really be able to, add that extra value to our customers.
There's one last minute question that snuck in from Gabriel. So Jarrett, I'm gonna push it over to you, and then we'll wrap it up. Was there a feature that you were not expecting to use, but now you use frequently?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'll be honest with you, and it's something that is very it's the most basic fundamental, but it's something that Front knocked out of the park. It's the comments within an email. So you can actually have a live conversation with somebody internally of your organization, and that's another way that we've been able to increase our or reduce our response time is by having a comment and a conversation within an email. So if you need to reach out to another department, you can do that in the email. They can have all the context. You're not having to recreate the wheel. Everything's right there for you. I would say that's the #1 feature.
Awesome. Thanks for taking us home. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. You'll get a copy of this recording, and thank you to the Jarrett team. Have a great day.
Andrew.
Yes, thank you guys.